everybody, and welcome back to Blood and Popcorn. I am TJ Rotell. Still, after all this time, I remain TJ Rotell, and with me, it feels good to say, as always, the Demogorgon, Denise Pantoja, and the odd movie master himself, Mr. Glenn Akers. Guys, welcome back. 29ers, welcome back. Fuck, I'm excited because we are back on Blood and Popcorn. Guys, this is a big deal. Tonight's a big deal. Denise, Glenn, how do we feel about the big deal?
Really good?
Yes, super excited. I mean, not only is it Friday the 13th Eve, which is a big deal. I mean, these days don't come by very often in the year. So when you get a Friday the 13th, I mean, fuck yeah. Not only is it Friday the 13th Eve, but it is the eve of a very big release for the three of us. And others you will meet next week. But like Glenn, tell us all about it.
A few years ago, we shot 99%, and
Glenn,
things happened.
tell him.
Glenn, oh, you're choppy. Hold on.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Listen, it wouldn't. I think I'm muted. Listen, it wouldn't be a Blood and Popcorn if there weren't just littered with technical difficulties. We had to start the show late because of them, but that's okay because we're here tonight. Astonia Knight says everything is fine. Astonia Knight, did Glenn sound choppy to you? Did he glitch out for a bit? Maybe it's just us. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Just distant. You sound distant, Glenn. And I got to, to be honest, I think you've been distant lately. Mostly because you've been across the country in California. Now we're here together. I burped, but coming back to being distant again. He can hear him. He's just distant. Speak no evil, have a seat. No, I was able to. So, okay, guys. Glenn was just about to tell us something, and I hope he still does. Because we're hearing about a popcorn. It's big. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, we shot this short, and the three of us produced. Wrote, and he stars in. Brad next week is also in it briefly. We shot this 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago. And we finally finished it this year, and it comes out in minutes.
It's going to be coming out real soon. Real soon. That's for sure.
We need like a hand signal.
For what?
Muting and unmuting.
Oh, yeah. It just seems choppy because that's how Glenn talks.
True.
Astonia Knight's got you pegged, Glenn.
Yeah, it's true.
It's got you pegged down, tacked down. Okay, so as Glenn was saying, it's been a couple of years. We did a lot of moving, obviously, but we shot this movie before the last time we moved. And we're going to save all the behind-the-scenes stories for next week. It's looking like Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. We're going to do our Blood and Popcorn behind the screams here on this movie here. You're going to see tonight. You will see that movie at the end of the show, probably just after 10 or so Pacific. In Canada, apparently it's 13:09:24. So that's the 13th of Friday on the 13th day. But yeah, so we are going to see that movie. But tonight, we are back on Blood and Popcorn. So we're going to get to the business at hand here shortly. Sorry, my vision's getting blurry. And actually talk about the movie we're going to talk about tonight, which is Friday the 13th, a 1980 classic that spawned a billion-dollar franchise and created the horror icon Jason Voorhees, but not in this movie. He didn't become the icon until the second one, which we'll get to at some point. But before we do, let's line you guys up for what's coming, and that's going to be a trailer for Watch Till the End, which if you hang out with us here for the next hour or so, you'll get to see the movie for everybody else. It's not going up on YouTube till tomorrow afternoon. So here's a little sneak peek at what's coming at the end of the hour, and enjoy. Yeah. So that's the movie we made. And that's enough about talking about us, because we're here to talk about one Ms. Pamela Voorhees in the atrocities she committed on Friday the 13th. The atrocities she committed at Camp Crystal Lake, aka Camp Blood, in the year of our Lord 1980. Guys, it's Blood and Popcorn. We know what to do. We know we've been down this road before. We've seen this movie. Let us discuss it as only we can here on the internet. Denise, you were actually the one who reminded me that tomorrow was Friday the 13th, because I've been so busy promoting the movie that beep, 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 beep. Sorry, glitched out there for a second. That's that fucking bottle of tequila I drank before the show. You were like, hey, it's Friday the 13th. And I was like, it is. And you're like, and the movie comes out. And I was like, it does. And you were like, and I was like, and we're doing the Lost Boys, right? And you're like, and I was like, shit, you're right. We should do Friday the 13th. So look for Lost Boys next week. But still, we are here talking Friday the 13th. Denise, as you so gently reminded me last night in Arcade, Jason Voorhees only appears in this movie for a brief moment, though mentioned in the driving force of the film. Tell us a bit, give us like, with 60 seconds on the clock, let the folks at home know what they're in for.
Okay, no pressure. So yeah, let's talk about in the 1950s, there were a group of counselors who let a boy drown because of shenanigans, right? Teenagers, hormones, shenanigans. So this boy drowned. I think it was the next year, a couple of those counselors were murdered. And then throughout the next few years, fires had been started. So the family who owned it, the son, Christie is his last name. I will remember his first name, Steve Christie. So he decided to bring the camp back. And then all of a sudden, these camp counselors start getting killed. The kitchen helper doesn't show up, and we see her get murdered. It's a very cool, it wasn't the first movie to use the killer's POV, but it was a very cool walkthrough of these murders, and you don't know who's doing them. Spoiler, we should put spoiler in chat. I was going to say that.
Done. We did it. We did it already. We did it.
Hey,
We've got hand signals.
That's okay. People don't mind. It'll be fine.
it'll be great. So we have several camp counselors, I think a sheriff and Steve Christie ended up getting murdered. And you end up with this final girl, Alice, who has discovered all of these bodies. And she has come upon a helpful woman who comes to help. And she explains that actually the boy who drowned was her son. And she doesn't want the camp to open again. So, and it seems like her son's
Wrong
talking to her.
movie.
What? Oh, listen,
Come
that was Psycho, but
on
she
now.
stabs
Come on.
everybody.
She was
stabs
Psycho.
everybody.
That's fair.
But then she goes after Alice, and then Alice ends up kiboshing her with her own weapon. But it seems as if the son is talking to her. Austonian pointed out in chat that there's a moment where Pamela Voorhees is speaking as her son, as though he's sort of speaking through her. Kill her, mommy. Kill her, which is so creepy. I mean, it's amazing. Like, let's talk about how Betsy Palmer, number one, who was I hate to use the word legitimate, but she was
Your 60 seconds are up, Denise.
well, no, but I finished the thing, and
I
then
know
I'm
that you were
moving
writing
into
to
the
Betsy
actors.
Palmer. Hey, this is for you, Denise. That's right. Give it up to Denise, everybody. Who?
I don't even know what just happened.
Well, you did a great job. Everyone knows what to expect now. We all see. Austonian Knight's saying there's a slight echo or delay on your mic, Denise. If you wouldn't mind, just yank it out of the wall and throw it across the room as hard as you can. I think that might fix the problem.
No, I think we've discovered I am the problem. So
That's
I will
right.
throw myself across the fucking room.
T. Sweezy was right. It's you. You're the problem. It's you. Is it still? Was it only going on because I had my mic hot? Welcome back, Critter Nation. I sound fine, okay, but Denise, what about right now, Sony Night? I'm gonna mute my mic.
Was that entire ramble delayed? Because God, that's awful.
I do have a booming, godlike, echoey voice. It's pretty. It's like a pre-delay. Well, I don't know. I just don't know.
I give up. I give up. I'm done. I'm fucking done. You'll never see me again.
Pre-delay. Glenn, you're quiet over there. I know you don't typically like movies.
I don't. I hate them.
You know, which is weird that you'd agree to do the show, but I guess, you know, in this economy, any port in a storm. But you did watch this one shortly after we reminded you that we were watching it today, which was several minutes ago. What was it like to watch the movie at 10 times speed? And did you get the same experience out of it that we did?
He hates these movies.
And John Carpenter.
God damn it. I don't.
We're back, baby.
Love that keeps coming back around every time.
We're making
Truth
fucking
hurts.
shirts, man. When the merch door opens, that's the first one off the line. Glenn Akers hates John Carpenter.
All of them, so no one can have them. No, it was. I think I've seen this twice. Once sober, for sure. And I wasn't 80s, 90s kid and watched like your main ones. Like I didn't see Nightmare until much later in life.
Well, you guys didn't have televisions in Illinois, right? Where you grew up?
No, we didn't. We just watched the cows.
They were.
But yet he got into like 70s horror, like majorly, but 80s and 90s, he's like, meh.
Well, only those
Yeah.
TVs worked. That was the only ones that worked. Was the ones from the 70s, the black and whites, which made Jolly really hard.
I bought
You're
a
a snob.
box that I thought was going to be 8mm porn, and it was weird horror.
Glenn Hedrum, porn. Someone's gonna clip that out. That's gonna be like on your LinkedIn. Porn.
Cool. If it gets me hired,
porn.
what the fuck ever.
Amen. Right?
Yeah. So once or maybe twice. The first time I thought it was fine. As a kid. But I will say I actually liked it better than
Oh, it's chipping up. Yeah.
is it Paramount who put out the 4K? Don't know. I'd have to look that up. It's amazing. Looks that good. Anyways, it's the first time I watched such strong like nostalgic like summertime vibes, which is to say, because it but it's really good at evoking those emotions and feelings. I feel like I'm rambling and not.
Question for you.
To the left.
Did you go to camp?
Yes, I was a Boy Scout.
What? How have we been friends for like almost 20 years and I didn't know that?
Drunk before, because I didn't become an Eagle Scout. I didn't care enough. That's probably why I never mentioned it. Anyways, yes, I did go to camp. I did.
Is this glitching for you?
Somewhere Illinois.
No, I hear it too.
Oh, great. Okay.
But I don't know if the audience hears it is what I'm curious about.
Wild. Okay. Did you go to camp, TJ?
I didn't. The closest I got to going to camp was Camp Anawana, and I hold it in my heart. And when I think about it, it makes me wanna.
What is it?
That's the theme song from Salute Your Shorts. No, I came up in the generation of Salute Your Shorts, and it made me want to go to camp. But every time I would want to go to camp, my parents would say no. My parents were actually super supportive. I'd be like, I don't want to go to camp because I want to be here with my friends. But then my sister went to camp, and we went to see her, and I was mad jealous. mad jealous. Every fucking day of my life since then, I've been like, fuck, I want to go to fucking summer camp, and I didn't. So if there's an adult summer camp out there, we're going, and we're going to stay in cabins and do archery and crafts, and I'm going to find like a summer love and kiss her under by the canoe shed, and it's going to be like, and it's going to be just like Salute Your Shorts, and that's my summer camp story.
Or it'll be just like Friday the 13th and we'll get murdered. We could make our own camp. Like if there's not one, we could totally fucking create one. I did not go to camp because we were poor. There's no money for camp. Get the fuck out of here. But I always wanted to go. Like it always seemed really, really cool to like venture out and then, you know, be in a group of new people for a slightly extended period of time and have experiences in nature and stuff like that. Seemed cool.
Astonia and I just mentioned Hate Dude, which was the other Nickelodeon camp show. It was like, hey, dude. That one I also made me want to go to camp, but in the South. And I lived in northeastern Pennsylvania, and Philly was about as south as we got.
I didn't have Nickelodeon growing up, so I don't know these references.
Surprised you had TV growing up, Glenn. You would project 8mm film on the side of an all-white cow, which is where real milk comes from. I don't know.
Cows make chocolate.
Tossed right now. But yeah, like back to the movie at hand. So this movie came out in 1980, and it had some interesting twists and turns to it. One of them being that it was what made for like what $500,000, 500,000. I think this movie was made for. And at the time, everyone was trying to compete with Halloween, Carpenter's Halloween, because it was like that came out, right? Am I wrong?
Not at all. More recreate the magic.
You're right. The magic that is Michael Myers. But yeah, Halloween had come out at like improved a low budget model for slasher horror, and the studios went, "Oh, we want that," and everyone else was like, "Oh, we also want to do that." So I think it's Sean Cunningham did Friday the 13th, if my drunken memory serves. And he was like, he was like, I remember watching a documentary, Crystal Lake Memories, and he was like, yeah, we were like, what can we do to make money off of this Halloween craze? And Friday the 13th was the thing that they did. Originally, it was about Purim, the Jewish holiday Purim. No, it wasn't that. That was a joke. We've been watching a lot of Christopher Guest movies lately. So that's
like,
why I brought
Wrong
that up.
genre.
Never heard that.
But like, you know, it also, Friday the 13th, also what it did in a very interesting way was spawn a bunch of holiday themed horror. You know, because Friday the 13th being an unlucky day throughout time and history, because Halloween had done it, right? So Halloween, and then Friday, they were like, how do we do another holiday? Like Friday the 13th. And then, of course, you see all these other Christmas movies and Leprechaun and all these other fun movies came out down the road. But Friday the 13th had this really interesting hook, which we'll get to at the end of this. But I think like one of the things it does really well is kill teenagers. And it does that exceptionally well. And the fun thing about this movie is that we don't know who the killer is. Like, you're watching Nightmare on Elm Street and you get it pretty quickly that Freddy Krueger's the killer. He's got a big fucking glove full of knife hands, and he wears a red and green sweater and a brown dirty hat, and he's burnt from head to toe. And that's Freddy Krueger. Like, that's our killer. That's who the movie's about. But Friday the 13th, all we ever see are some fucking hands doing some dirty deeds done dirt cheap. You know what I mean? Like stabbing and hanging and slashing and shooting. And, you know, maybe, I don't know if that was this one. She played with an arrow. But we're led to believe this whole time, like one of the greatest slash movies of all time, because if you look at how much it influenced the rest of the genre, like look back at Friday the 13th, and then as soon as you're done watching it, take a quick peek at Wes Craven's Scream and understand immediately what for what it was at the time. Friday the 13th was a Sixth Sense level twist. It was an M. Night Shyamalan level twist, because the whole time all you're hearing is Jason Voorhees and Jason Voorhees and Jason Voorhees, and you think, oh, well, clearly this must be it. I can't imagine what it must be like for a younger generation who's heard and knows of like their whole like it's in the zeitgeist, man. It's in the modern society of the world. You know, everyone knows who Jason Voorhees is. It's like the Pope, Bono and Jason Voorhees. Like, you know those three names. And then you look at Scream and you start to look at the modern horror of like leading an audience down one path and then absolutely fucking turning the tables on them and showing you something else. It's a revolutionary horror movie. That's all Denise. That's all I'm saying.
You are correct, and I think that's why, Glenn, you need to have way more respect for this fucking movie, okay? Looking down your nose at it and shit from your high horse
I
Your
said I
ivory
fucking
tower.
liked it.
70s.
What the hell?
You're
Glenn
like,
hates Sean
"Eh."
Cunningham.
Oh my God, Glenn. So
Bono, though? What?
Listen, on the fly, it was really hard to come up with a third name. I'm not going to lie. Because I was like, well, I don't want to do like Freddy Krueger. That's too horror. Listen, don't judge my improv, motherfucker.
okay. So yes, and let's get back to Betsy Palmer. So Betsy Palmer had a good reputation, in the movie industry, and she took on this role. It's so great. There are actually several really good documentaries, a lot of really great behind the scenes stuff. Like, there's one that's like 8 hours long, right, TJ? Because it's like a million fucking parts.
Yeah, that's Crystal Lake Memories, and you can watch it somewhere on some streaming network, or you can buy it in 2 parts for twice the price on Apple Movies, iTunes, Apple TV. I'm sure that was a licensing thing where they're like, you can't release this whole movie all at once for sale, so they broke it into 2 parts. And they were like, loophole, motherfucker. Australian Night rented it on Amazon, so you can rent it. But it's a really in-depth. Corey Feldman hosts it, and it's
not. He doesn't do that one.
he does Crystal Lake Memories. It's exactly the one he does.
Crystal Lake Memories, but the one I'm talking about. Carry on.
Great, I will carry on. Denise was just rambling on about what she thinks is the Nightmare on Elm Street documentary series you're talking about.
No. Wait.
Anyway, regardless,
He does the Crystal Lake
he
Memories?
does the Crystal Lake. That's right. We've watched it twice in the last week.
I thought they were 2 different ones.
That's
for a
why I know
second
about
there.
Sean Cunningham's illustrious career.
You watched an 8-hour thing twice?
We do a lot here, Glenn. We're always moving and shaking. You know what I mean?
We put things on in the background. We listen to them. It's just a lot of really great stories. But
ADHD is neurodivergencies are a hell of a thing.
Okay.
did you hear him? No.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was saying neurodivergency is a hell of a thing. ADHD is a hell of a drug.
Wow. Okay. Anyway. Yeah, I'm really having a hard time reconciling that he did the super long one. But anyway, yes, Crystal Lake Memories. I also purchased like a bonus DVD that had additional interviews. Haven't even seen it yet. And I don't know how long it is, but yeah, after that, we put it on. It was really great. But she didn't think this was going to go anywhere. And she was just floored at how people responded to it over the years, and when she would do appearances, go to cons and stuff like that. So that was really fascinating. And she was almost like, yeah, I can just forget about this. It's never going to happen again. And it's literally like one of the most recognizable things, obviously, for a certain generation that she was in, which is really
Glenn, did you have? Well, first off, let me mention the 6 Degrees of Jason Voorhees, aka the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. This movie was like this. It's 6. Trust me. Kevin Bacon was in this movie, and before this, he was pretty much an Animal House. So this was like a big deal. This was a big thing. Like, he was going to get to, make out with hot chicks and be in sex scenes. And what young actor in the 80s wouldn't want that? You know what I mean? Nothing was going on back then that would be dangerous. So, yeah, like you have this what became an absolute juggernaut in the film industry, but not the only one. Like, you look back at that time period, And you see that that's kind of a trend. Like you have Kevin Bacon in Friday the 13th. Was it Jennifer Aniston in Leprechaun? Demi Moore's in one at some point. I don't remember which one, but like a lot of big name stars got their start in the indie horror scene. George Clooney was in Killer Tomatoes 2, I think. Attack of the Killer
Patricia
Tomatoes 2.
Arquette in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Who was that?
Patricia Arquette.
Oh, she is pretty famous. But but yeah, so to see,
Interim show, big show, medium. Duh.
Oh yeah.
yeah, it was like medium good. That's where I saw that one. But yeah, so like, you know, we've got all these really great, yeah, Johnny Depp, arguably the biggest star of them all, Captain Jack Sparrow himself. Johnny Depp was in Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street. So I bring Kevin Bacon up, Glenn, because Kevin Bacon had this really interesting kill in this movie, and I was wondering if there was a favorite kill that you had that you can recall from seeing this.
The Kevin Bacon one is really good because it does come out of nowhere, especially seeing that in 1980 and being like, oh, they killed that kid. The second kill, technically, I forget the character name. Oops. It women who is like in the woods, and she's like against the tree, and like you see her throat get slit, and then you see
Go ahead, you can jump in with that.
the blood comes out.
Claudette.
Was it Annie? Wasn't she the?
Or is it the first
one?
kill?
I think she's the first one because isn't that the hitchhiker with the banana? Is she the second?
The banana. She has the banana phone.
Or is that part two? Am I thinking?
No, I think it's Annie. Throat slashed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Annie. Yeah, she jumps out of the Jeep and then she runs through the woods.
First off, don't ever jump out of a Jeep. Dangerous move. Running alone in the woods with Jason Voorhees, arguably more dangerous, if you know, Annie's to be believed.
Yeah, you can jump out of a Range Rover, but not a Jeep.
Much safer.
Doesn't somebody? That's my favorite kill. I think it's because, again, it's the first one that like you can see the quality of the effects work. But like again, like I watched this. I went and rented a 4K to go watch this today. I had to go very fast. Even in 4K,
So, as long as it's clear.
it's better than a lot of practical effects that I see even like now. A really, really
Turn
good
your
job
speaker real quick.
with almost all of the kills. Like, but I tend to look for like, where's the spirit gum line, or like, can I see the blood line? It's hard to tell in a lot of these effects. So
Glenn.
I think that one.
Sad news is you are in fact breaking up on the stream. We just
Oh
checked.
my God, we're breaking up.
We're breaking up. Glenn, the three of us are breaking up. That's it, everybody. That's the show. Good night. No, just kidding.
No.
But Glenn, we do want to fix this problem.
Sure.
So let's see how to fix it.
Hold on. I just wanted to redact. I think so. Like the banana eating hitchhiker was like somebody says on the internet part 6. We've been watching the BTS documentary as well, so I'm like, it's all kind of melding together. So my apologies. I'm embarrassed. I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah, we're all gonna leave. Good night, everybody. Yeah, no, Glenn, you'd mentioned in the choppiness that is your feed, the effects in this movie, and that brings up an excellent point because the effects in this movie were done, if memory serves, by the legendary Tom Savini. Am I wrong with that? I feel like he did the first one. I feel like he didn't do the second one. Let's take a look real quick. We've got
I think you're
special
right.
effects by atmospheric effects. That's not what we would. Why isn't it's very confusing. Art direction, set deck, production management, art department, sound department, special effects. Tom Savini, stunts. Yeah, if Tom Savini did the stunts, he was definitely doing the effects. This movie.
Yeah, he did do the
Yeah.
special effects. My bad.
So Tom Savini did the effects of this movie, and I remember watching the documentary. He talked about that Kevin Bacon kill and how the arrow comes up through the neck, and it's a whole thing. I mean, and aside from the Tom Savini effects being fucking top-notch chef's kiss in this movie, he did this arrow kill with Kevin Bacon, and there's a false body. It's Kevin's basically laying down underneath what is the false body of him, and his neck is stops here, so the arrow can come up through what is not his real neck, because that would be murder in the first degree, which is punishable by law in this country for some reason. And I watched the documentary. There's this really cool story that I can relate to personally, not because I was on the set of Jason. I was -2 at that point when Friday the 13th was made. But apparently during that arrow kill, the syringe that was supposed to pump the blood stopped and wouldn't go. So the special effects assistant rips the syringe out of the hose and manually blows the blood through the hose, and it gurgles up through the neck, and it looks very, very cool. But I had a very similar experience. I was doing special effects on a short film.
He was murdering somebody.
I was murdering somebody with a syringe and a hose and fake blood, which is the only way. If you're going to do it, it's the only way to do it. And that exact same thing happened. I remember hearing that. I was the syringe stopped, and I gulped a big mouthful of blood, and I just manually pushed it through the hose, and it filled up, and it was cool. And I'm severe.
Fun fact.
I have a severe allergy to red food dye. But I'm not about to stop doing it. And but that's a side note. But the special effects in this movie were rad, and that's because of Tom Savini, who went on to be one of the forefathers of the modern gore effect. Someone who's on the fucking Mount Kilmore of special effects artists, with Rick Baker and and Screaming Mad George and the like. But yeah, that's a good pick. But yeah, that throat slash, Glenn, was really interesting, because I don't know, aside from Last House on the Left, we saw some good kills in Halloween, but it was a lot of strangulations. That was up close and personal, with a knife and a throat and a young girl, and just the blood, and then the latex opens up, and it's just very gross and very awesome. But that's a good choice for kill. Denise, did you have a favorite kill in this lovely film of ours?
Well, what's interesting about that I was going to say is that there are several off-screen kills as well. There are very few that you see, and it's I called them a little earlier because they get so interesting as the franchise carries on. And that's one of my favorite things about this franchise, is they get really creative with the kills. It's just interesting to note that there are just a handful of them. Kevin Bacon is obviously, that one's an iconic death scene. And it's a similar, I think there's a similar one in one of the subsequent sequels.
Might be 3. Maybe it's 3 or 2, but I think 3.
Oh yeah, 3 for
She
sure.
hits a knife through the neck in using the same gag.
Yeah, she's in the hammock. But yeah, I was looking at them, and it's very interesting. And I don't know if this was done on purpose, or maybe it was just, coincidentally a subtle nod to maybe the rage that this character feels at the fact that her son was allowed to perish because the teenagers weren't paying attention. Oh, and then I have another point about that after this. But a lot of stabbing, throat slashing, they're all very similar. It's very personal, in the face. One of them gets an axe to the face. So it's just a very interesting coincidence, probably, that it happened that way. But you can also attribute that to the character and sort of what rage and desperation that she is feeling, that she's just making it all very personal. And your favorite death, TJ?
My favorite death is simple. It's elegant. My favorite death comes at the end of the movie, when a machete is swung and a head is spun clean off our killer's body. That was a real hell of an effect. And what's fun about that is there's another story where the hands that come into the screen, they're very hairy and manlike, and it's because it was Tom Savini. I think it was Tom Savini. There was an assistant, one of the two, but it was a
believe
man's
it's Tom.
hands in the screen being like, "Oh no, my head's been cut off." But you're not going to put Betsy Palmer in front of a machete because that's dangerous. As someone who's stood behind a pillow while a sharp object is stabbed into it and done hand stuff. Listen, you'll figure it out later on when we show the movie. But I've done hand stuff. But yeah, so you're not going to put.
Sounds like hearsay.
Haven't we all?
Yeah, you're not going to put Betsy Palmer in harm's way. It's a miracle she's in this movie as it is.
She doesn't do hand stuff.
She definitely doesn't do. She was. It was in her contract, but her agent got her out of it in the end, because the hand stuff was in the end, which was no one was interested in that by that point in the movie. But yeah, that's my favorite kill, just because the complexity of it and having now been in those shoes of having a real weapon that could really stab me in the stomach, stab a pillow that's 3 inches from my stomach.
This didn't happen.
It didn't happen. None of this ever happened. Movies are real. Everything's real. Hand stuff is real.
That's a good death.
It is.
I changed my.
You
what
can't.
said.
You already picked. Your.
Listen, I
your
just said
death.
it was iconic. I didn't say it was my favorite.
Well, there it is. The technicalities roll in again with Denise. Classic Demogorgon.
Okay, so let me get back to my next point. Are we cool to move on from?
Yeah, man.
Favorite death scene?
Point it up. Point it out.
Okay, so what's really great about this horror franchise is that it literally set the tone. It made the rules inadvertently for these types of movies, these slashers. If you're promiscuous, if you're drinking, if you're doing drugs, you're going to die, because what people took away from that is that you get punished, right? You're getting punished for this. But a really fascinating thing that Sean Cunningham talked about in one of the documentaries is that it wasn't meant to be that. It wasn't meant to be a punishment for these teenagers misbehaving. It was 1,000% just because they were distracted. If you get distracted by drinking and drugs, or if you're busy fucking, you're not going to be able to see the bad guy coming. And it makes so much sense, but it's interesting that it created these rules, which also created a stigma that we still fight against today with horror movies and the treatment of women. And that's like a whole other show, but it's really amazing how it completely set the tone and evolved an entire several decades of movies. Like, it's what? It's amazing. Like, I don't know how you can't be more excited about this, Glenn.
Absolutely. No, and Astonia Knight's saying his favorite kill was the axe kill in the face, and I believe that was Marcy, who took got the axe to the face, as oftentimes you do when you go to camp. You get an axe to the face, you shoot some bows and arrows, and you ride in the blob, and you get popped up in the air in the lake, and that's how.
Marcy was like riding that high after doing Kevin Bacon. You know what I'm saying?
Who wouldn't? I know I would. I'd be riding that high.
One a year every camp. It's just part of the thing.
Yeah, and if
It's in the brochure.
Based on these rules, I have to say, based on the rules that Denise just laid out of slasher movies, I have to be completely honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to make it through the night. Because, other than doing the do, we're there. You know what I mean? Like we've crossed the line. Like we are. All I got to do now is get up to go pee and be like, I'll be right back. And I'm fucked. Like I'm dead fucked. Like oh man, like Kevin Bacon with an arrow in his throat fucked. And that is that's a real shame. I'm upset to hear that, because Denise, I've got a lot of plans, and I did not know that alcohol and drugs tonight would be the thing that did me in. I always thought
And hand stuff.
Yeah, and hand stuff. You know, I mean, here we go. Like, who even determines what it is? Like, is it penetration? How does Jason determine
Right.
who gets it? You know, because I've seen a lot of horror movies, and a lot of times it's just a top coming off. You know what I mean? Jason's like an allegory for hell. You know what I mean? It's like you commit all these sins and you go to hell, and it's like there's the varying degrees. You know, some guy stole a sandwich and some guy ate a dog, and those guys both end up in the same hell according to Jason. And you know,
Listen, but again, that was not the intention. That's what, and maybe that's like such a perfect example of how everybody's sort of biases from real life color how they view things, and then society comes up with this set of rules in general, right? Not just for horror movies, but in general in real life that have been colored by their own biases against things like drugs and drinking and sex. Like, it's not just, oh, you're impaired. Like, oh, who knew you're impaired and you can't run away from a killer? No, you're doing this and you're being punished.
yeah, that punishment's a big part of it. Glenn, growing up in Illinois, how were you not murdered by a machete wielding, hockey mask wearing killer?
Well, you can't get murdered if you're the murderer. So
Oh, Glenn, the
I knew it.
notorious corn stalker, they called him.
Glenn's not my real name.
That's right. It's Corny McCornington, the corn stalker. 99 kernels for 99 souls. Corn stalker coming soon to Blood and Popcorn. Yeah, no, like, listen, at the end of the day, to me at least, in my humble opinion as a horror fan and a creator, is like there's a holy trinity of horror killers, and it is in no particular order is Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, and Jason Voorhees. And if there was a fourth, it would be Leatherface. But that's
I'm like, he's always left out. That poor guy. He's left out of everything.
Leatherface, or well, Leatherface is like Saint Peter. He lets you into the gates with a chainsaw, as heaven is meant to be. But
Oh my God.
but yeah, so like I'm very grateful that this movie came out, because this, like, the Friday the 13th franchise was one of those franchises that, I mean, this movie is fucking like 10 standard films, right? Up until Jason Goes to Space, which, genuinely speaking, is one of my favorite Friday the 13th. Jason,
Excellent kill.
Jason X, the 10th one. But then you've got the Freddy versus Jason, which gives it another chapter. And then on top of that, you've got the remake with, what is that? Jared Padalecki and the girl who was in The Flash. She was like the Frost girl in The Flash. I think she's in just Hallmark movies now. Regardless, the Brie Baker, Pennebaker, Danielle Pennebaker, whatever it is. Regardless, like, this movie is a generational franchise, much like Friday the 13th. I don't want to say, like, Leatherface had some remakes, but like Danielle Pennebaker, thanks, Austin Night. But like Halloween just had its third iteration of a franchise with the Blumhouse movies, which I fucking hate. But that's just my humble opinion as a filmmaker and a human on this planet. But the Friday the 13th franchise, like they keep reinventing. It's almost like they set us up in 1980 for this method of how to kill a killer and then set yourself up to bring him back from their sequel, because it's like, well, this is it. Jason's finally dead and he's never coming back. But we hit that music sting at the end, or we see a finger twitch or an eye open, or, you know what I mean? And I like to credit Friday the 13th with that, because with A Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, sometimes you'd get the weird false endings like the original and the second one and whatnot. But like Halloween was pretty consistent. You killed Michael Myers, he was dead, and then they would, you know, fucking fix that shit in the next movie with some pre-roll. But Friday the 13th had this way of letting you know that Jason Voorhees was never going to die. He's an unkillable machine. He's a monolith. He's a pillar in the horror
Yeah.
community.
I mean, he walks away in Freddy versus Jason, which is, yeah, I mean, technically Freddy does too. But anyway, I was going to say something and I forgot it. Oh, it's also very interesting to note, spawning all these sequels, that it was not intended for that. Like, Jason was not intended to come back, you know, even though it's kind of like open-ended at the end. Like, okay, we met Adrian King at Fangoria one time. Oh my God, I miss Fangoria so much. It was like one of the original horror conventions. It was Fangoria, Weekend of Horrors. And I think they and Creation Entertainment broke up. I don't think it went well. Anyway. And I have this, it's a, what the fuck is it called? Lunchbox. And Adrian King signed it.
It's a hand.
I have two hands. Adrian King signed it, and I had to write, like, what about the boy in the lake? Like, that is so creepy, that ending, right? And then you're like, is it a dream? Is it not a dream? But it did so well. Like, it was, you were right. It was like 550,000, I think, is what was, where the F is that? I had it here. 550,000, I think, is what the budget was estimated to be. And they made like 30 something million. So, I mean, obviously, you're not going to let that end. Obviously.
Yeah, studios aren't stupid. Glenn, well, I mean, let's maybe walk that comment back. But Glenn, as someone who absolutely loves slasher movies, especially the Scream franchise,
And John Carpenter.
He does better when he's doing supernatural things.
If you had to, like, in the modern era of horror, if you had to, like, create a Jason like character as a creative, as a writer and a director and someone who's very into horror, what kind of attributes would you give that killer to make him stand out in a world of child robots and, oh God, imaginary teddy bears and other things? Like, how do you make a killer in the modern era that stands out like a Jason Voorhees? And on that note, I'm going to step away, but I want you to tell Denise all about it, and I'll be right back.
Well, first and foremost, it would be an allegory for, because that's all that modern horror is.
An allegory for what? I missed that. Why? No, it like blinked out again. Say it slowly.
Trauma.
There we go. Thank you. Trauma makes sense.
Fuck, is it glitching? It really ruins a joke.
When I have to ask you 3 times. Well, twice. Thank you, Estonian.
Yeah. How would I? Ooh, that's tough. That is interesting. I don't know, because there is 100 years of horror before. Not that everybody movies nowadays knows
The old stuff.
not even shit from the audiences don't really know what, like, OG Jason Freddy really is.
Yeah, because they've been introduced to all of these remakes.
Yeah, then fuck it. He has all the attributes of Freddy, let's say, just a Freddy 5. He's a magical dream demon.
Gotcha. Okay.
No teenager has seen these original movies. And that's kind of a joke answer. That's tough. I don't really know. And how you can make it PG-13, which is also what horror is currently, which is sad.
Yeah.
And then you can get the unrated Megan.
Okay. I know I wasn't asked this question, but I would argue
I was gonna ask it when I got back.
Okay, cool.
Maybe I don't know what the question is.
Okay, sorry. I'm still not.
Question
I
it.
wasn't unmuted. I would argue that you would do the exact same thing to stick out from the child robots and the, very odd, like supernatural elements that have been brought into a lot of the present day movies because it does stand apart, right? Like you're not it's so simple
Mm.
and I'm not like shivering in the corner underneath, the covers. I mean, let me tell you, there are certain parts of Insidious that still give me the fucking chills, or The Conjuring that still give me the chills. Jason doesn't necessarily give me the chills anymore, but it is still intense. It's almost thriller like, right? Because here you have some fucking guy who's like able to come back time and time again, and he like walks as fast as somebody runs, and he comes after you and he gets you every fucking time, except for like the last one or two people. And there's just something so still scary and very simple about that for me.
Glenn, I'm hearing that in chat we got about 2/3 of your words.
I don't know what to say about
don't.
that.
You made a couple
I don't either. But
Now to the question though.
maybe Glenn, here's what I'm going to suggest we do because I think we've got a little more gas in the tank here. We're having fun. We're losing viewers by the second. It's okay. I
I think we've gained.
Oh no,
but all right.
there's negative 14 in chat. And I don't even know how that's possible, but we've somehow managed to suck viewers from other suck. Anyway, Glenn, why don't we have you do this? Why don't we have you? I'm gonna go to the "We'll be right back" card, and we're gonna take a short break, and we're gonna try to see if Glenn can't fix the issue here. Yeah, here we go. We're talking about Friday the 13th. Glenn had just wrapped up talking about, in a very broken up and glitchy manner, how he would recreate Jason in the modern era, and then Denise jumped in and also gave her 2 cents. And I think I started rambling on about I don't know.
Why don't you give us your 2 cents?
My 2 cents are this. I think a killer like Jason is a generational talent. I think he's the Babe Ruth of slashers. You know what I mean? Like he calls his shots and then he executes them perfectly. I think, nowadays we see killers like Pennywise, the new Pennywise, the Skarsgård Pennywise, the bullshit one, come into the game and like just be handed a seat at the table, which I think is horseshit. These other killers have earned their place in the pantheon of horror, like Freddy and Jason and Michael and Leatherface and the Leprechaun and Pinhead and the Cenobites and Jigsaw. These people who've got like 8 to 10 movies in their franchise, and Pennywise comes in and he's like, "I'm a begging clown." You don't
No
deserve your
shade
place
to
there.
Bill. Bill's a very talented actor.
Yeah, except I heard The Crow was an absolute shit show. But
I'm sure that wasn't him.
no, he's a very talented actor. Whole family full of talented actors.
Oh my god.
But the how I would recreate someone like Jason, I think already has been done. And from what I understand, and I want to do this show, I want to do this movie on this show. But from what I understand, A Violent Nature has done a really excellent job of creating an environment where an original killer who's out there just murking cats, not cat merkins like wigs made out of, you know what I'm saying? But like killing people in an area and doing so in such a violent nature that your movie takes such hold of an audience that you're like, wow, right away. Like I have not seen A Violent Nature, but I've heard of it so much that it's this new era of slasher horror that really makes it happen. And I think that it's been done because you can't, like, all the ingredients of a Jason Voorhees you have. Well, again, this wasn't Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th. This is
What?
Pamela Voorhees.
Mrs. Voorhees.
But 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 if you go deeper into the Friday the 13th franchise and you recreate a Jason Voorhees, you need that perfect storm of no budget, of understanding like you're making something that should cost 10 times what it does, and everyone's kicking in their ideas, and it's a very collaborative effort. So when you've got someone bringing a hockey mask to the table or a potato sack, or saying, well, he's got to come back from the dead now, so we gotta do the thing, like you have it. It's the people involved in the process. It's the necessity that is derived from a lack of budget and a lack of time, and a studio telling you that you now need to create a sequel for a movie where your killer was decapitated by the hero at the end. So I think if I were to do it, I think I would strip away all of the resources. I would make us write a movie that we could make with what we had in the locations we had, and I would make that I would force us into a complicated trap that would ultimately end up having us think outside the box to get ourselves back into a box to create something like a Jason Voorhees, because I do think it's that Jason Voorhees was born out of necessity, because you had a studio system who was pressuring the filmmakers to come up with a sequel, which was never meant to have a sequel. Much like Halloween was never meant to have a sequel, or Friday Nightmare on Elm Street was never meant to have a sequel. Like, these were meant to be one-off movies. So to create something that would endure the way that Jason Voorhees has in the Friday the 13th franchise after his mother kicked things off, I think it's really just comes down to the people making it. I would assemble a team like I have here with me now, great thinkers, creative people who know how to work under duress and who have worked under duress. And I would sit at a table and I would throw ideas at a whiteboard until we had something that resembled the iconic nature of a Jason Voorhees and a Friday the 13th. And I would hope that it would do it justice. But, I mean, we're going to see here very shortly what it looks like when you get the three of us together in a room and are pressured against a zero budget project finished the day before in scripting, utilizing what we had and how we had it to try to create something in 3.5 minutes that might endure, that we might have the opportunity to look back on someday and say, I remember when this character came to be, just like we're remembering when Friday the 13th kicked things off that ultimately spawned a killer like Jason, who's become so iconic in the genre. That's the hope, right? I think that's all of our hope. Like make a good enough movie that people remember it. And I think that's what Friday the 13th did so wonderfully, was it made us remember. It turned an otherwise normal day of the year into a bad luck charm, into a day. I mean, I personally, like, I think of Friday the 13th, like, I don't believe in the bad side of it. I'm like, yeah, it's a great day for me. It's fucking usually a pretty awesome day. But the rest of the world's like, Friday the 13th, fuck, we're fucked. But like, what an amazing legacy to leave. What a movie changes the entire landscape of a day of the year. It's only 365 of them normally. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty big shoes.
I know that you and I are big fans of this franchise, TJ, and we are big appreciators of what it has done. Glenn, coming from a film school lens, coming from a lens
Oh,
where you're not like
God.
a big fan of these slasher films, what are some things that you can leave us with, after we gush about it, right? But I'm curious from your lens, from a I don't want to say elevated, but a
Certainly not.
you have a very particular taste in movies.
How dare
Watching
you.
this again, it's not a bad thing. watching this again, like what can you say about its place in history? Like what can you, good or bad, what can you, how would you describe it to somebody who's got no idea what this franchise is about?
I mean, you already hit upon how it like basically, at least to my knowledge, set all of the rules that still aren't really broken, for better or worse. That for sure is one. Um, Definitely, like, yeah, this is what Halloween came out in 78. Is that right? I should know this, but I don't. Anyways, it's like
I want to
it's
say
like
78. If I'm remembering correctly, I want to say
like
78.
1 to 3 years after Halloween, which, as much as you love to give me shit for, I do like. It is one of my lesser of John Carpenter's, but the man is a hit maker, so whatever.
Why do you hate him so much?
Like DJ
Shut the
Khaled.
fuck up.
Another one.
Whatever. As much as I like Halloween, it's actually like pretty bloodless and like definitely goreless. Um, and I'm sure I'm actually forgetting things that I know of, but like this one truly ratcheted up the gore and the special effects and the practical effects within whatever this was, a year or two after Halloween. So like that in and of itself is like a lasting impression that we can still feel. And again, like I'm sure there's something in between there that I'm forgetting, but like didn't have the like impact that this did. Like nothing that I can recall between Halloween and this was as big of a hit, but like also really did practical effects and gore. I think that's probably its two biggest contributions. Um, I would say it's score, but like Halloween did the like you hear one chord from it and you're like, that's Halloween. Like, yes, you hear one chord from this and you're like, that's Friday the 13th, but Halloween did it first. But then again, you could also say that the majority of the actual score of this movie is just Psycho, but slightly changed. Because it is. Uh, Anyways, I think those are like the two main things that this movie really have brought to the genre. And I now don't know if that answered your question at all, or if I just rambled about nothing.
I know I certainly rambled on my question. It was like the debate. I just rambled on and on and on and on and on. And I was like, at the end of it, I was like, and that's why you should vote for me for president of these United States.
You're
I
not
was-
running.
I was trying not to bring it up.
I'm a write-in. You can write me in. You can write me in anywhere.
Okay, have we said all there is to say about Friday the 13th at this point?
I think so. I mean,
think
listen,
so.
we talked about the kills. We talked about the killer. We talked about the franchise, and we talked about the deaths. We talked about the special effects. We talked about the music, and we talked about the movie, and it's time to end the show. But
That's like a children's book.
that's right. It's Dr. Seuss Goes to Camp Blood.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's one stab, two stab, three stab, blue stab.
We're gonna write that.
But I think the thing we can all agree on is that Friday the 13th was an absolute monolith in the horror genre, and from the decapitated womb of Pamela Voorhees, Betsy Palmer came one of the most iconic horror killers in the history of the genre. And I think for that we owe Sean Cunningham and Frank Mancuso and the rest of the team that went on to create this insane franchise a big round of applause. Thank you, Team Paramount and Team Friday the 13th. You did it. You did it. But now it's time to look back on something that we did. God, this is nerve-wracking. This is a nerve-wracking moment. I don't know how to handle this because we're about to show you at home. Well, before we do, before we do, I just want to talk for another 15, 20, 30 minutes.
It's one of these.
No, before we do, I almost forgot to get our final thoughts on Friday the 13th. I just gave mine. So I'm going to kick it off to Glenn for your final thoughts, and Denise, give your final thoughts. And that's before we go into our sneak peek at Watch Till the End. Glenn, take us to your final thoughts here, please.
Yeah, like I said before, this is one of the ones that I've only seen a handful of times. But it does actually do a good job of like bridging the gap and basically starting slasher movies, if you will, between like proto slashers from the 60s and mostly 70s to what we mostly consider slasher from the 80s on. And yeah, it like established most of the rules again, for better or worse, that like we still see today in horror movies. And it thankfully ushered in the giant wave of practical horror effects that came in the 80s. That for the most part hasn't really gone away. Mostly. Anyways, it's also just a good this time of year, unless you're in LA when it was blazingly hot the last week, a good fall movie to watch, even though it does technically take place in the summer, but whatever. I see why you two like it so much and why you watch it a lot. It's a comfort movie in a weird way if you get comfort from horror movies.
Yeah, it's like a Hallmark movie.
As I assume if you're watching this, you do. But yeah, it's something that I will definitely watch more of in the future. And sad that I didn't actually grow up with it. With that, Dee, what's your thoughts?
Well, huge fan, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is also, everybody forgets, and this is so beautifully illustrated in Scream when he's asking her that question, who was the killer in Friday the 13th? He kind of tricks her into it. And it's like Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees has become synonymous with that, but he was not the first killer. Everybody kind of forgets that it was Pamela Voorhees, his mother. And was this one of the first instances where you see a mother, like, especially in this time and age, you don't see a mother in that type of role or as a killer. Like, so what a fascinating, and I don't think we've done honestly enough digging about this. They did in like the second movie, they talked about that a little bit, like the effect of seeing his mother's death on Jason, but like the effect of his death and what she did, like it's so much more fascinating, I think, than we give it credit for. And again, it just started off as like, how can we outdo this this Halloween that has taken everybody by storm? But I love to look back at these things, especially the things that I grew up watching. That, yeah, it is a comfort thing. Like, I'll put Halloween on in the background like any day of the fucking week. I'll do the
Hell
same
yeah.
thing with Friday
You
the
will.
13th. I do.
And
I
have.
will, and I do. And I have. I'll watch it by myself in a storage unit at 11 o'clock at night and maybe creep myself out a bit. But anyway, I think it's such a really cool beginning to an incredible storied history of this type of movie. And like I said, watch the documentaries. They're fascinating stories, really just great behind the scenes tidbits. And I'm just huge fan. And, God bless Betsy Palmer and her glorious acting, and Adrienne King, one of the OG Scream Queens.
Praise their names.
Love them. I mean, like, women. Like, this was a very strong female-driven movie as well. And yeah, just love. Bloody hearts all around. And speaking of Scream Queens, congratulations to fucking Jamie Lee Curtis for winning a well-deserved Emmy. She is getting her flowers, as she has deserved for so long. And happy birthday to Tim Capello, who was the beloved saxophonist in The Lost Boys.
More like saxophonist. God damn, Tim Capello, why you doing us like that? I
mean,
still
so
believe.
greasy.
Speaking of, I
So
still
muscly.
believe in Tim Capello. Make sure you tune in for next week's 40th episode of Blood and Popcorn, where we will finally cover the classic that is The Lost Boys and celebrate Tim Capello in all his glory. But that's next week. That's the future, not the rapper, the actual future. This is the present, and we're about to unwrap it, like so many Christmas gifts of memories of yore, because it is time. It has finally come
I'm like,
time.
stop putting it off. Do it. Rip off the
I
Band-Aid.
can't. It's so
You're
hard
so
to
scared.
listen. This is so hard to do, you guys. This is the hardest.
We're excited
Here,
and
come,
scared.
Come close. Come close. This is a really scary thing to do. I'm like in this movie, and I wrote it and produced it, and I'm really nervous about it. Oh shit. Okay, pre-rolls are disabled. Pre-roll are disabled. Pre-roll ads are disabled for 42 minutes. Good. All right, guys, you've waited long enough. You've endured technical difficulty after technical difficulty. You have been here with us from the beginning, and I hope this is just the beginning of something great.
But first, a word from our sponsor.
Denise has
Yeah, I
ads.
have
We're gonna wait. We're
ads.
gonna wait until the ads. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Core Power.
Bostonian is dying to know what flavor of ice cream we
I'm butter
relate
pecan.
to.
Butter pecan is the flavor of ice cream that I am. I'm sweet.
Why?
I'm because I'm
Is
sweet
it what we
and
are
I'm
or what we
creamy.
like?
But I also
Nutty?
I'm a little nutty, and I've got a little bite to me when you get in there. There's a little crunch. It's gonna confuse your palate. I confuse your palate, but I bring you back for more. So I'm butter pecan.
Interesting.
Yeah. What about you, Glenn? What ice cream are you? I'm just gonna
Ooh,
keep
this is
delaying
tough.
this movie until it's 1 in the morning.
Is it what I am or what I like?
What is it that you are? What ice cream best describes you?
Ooh, this is tough. Oh, it's not going to be as witty as I want it to be.
Just be honest, Speak from the heart. Speak from your ice cream heart.
Oh, I don't have a heart anymore.
Rocky Road.
No, they say that in the movie. I don't know. Fuck.
All right, Denise, what kind of ice cream are you?
I put it in chat. I'm vanilla all day. Very easily flavored.
That's true.
And a classic.
Denise is the tofu of the group.
Ew. Don't do her like that. Tofu?
All right, Glenn. The time is now. Just like in the first episode where we put you on the spot to come up with a
fuck.
catchphrase.
Shit.
What ice cream are you? Say it right now. We're gonna play the movie and with no intro.
Rum raisin.
Rum raisin.
Because no one likes it.
That's right. No one likes. And it's full of booze.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And
It's full of booze.
shriveled
Nobody
up.
likes it, and it's weird and wrinkly.
Oh my God.
Glenn, it's the
You're
perfect
welcome.
answer. Guys, the time has come. We're not going to put it off anymore. You're here. It's time to watch the movie. Please be gentle. We hope you like it. We worked really hard on it. This had zero budget in cash, but a lot of sweat equity put in from the three people you see on screen, from our DP and editor, Garrett Johnson, from our VFX motion and on-set Swiss Army knife, Ben Nicholson, from our killer and special gore effects, Brad Bailey, from our mask maker, Brandy Morris, from our composer and post-sound mixer, Jules Berger. This was a collaborative effort. This is what it looks like when friends come together and use what they have to make a piece of art that they're proud of, that might not be perfect, but is something that they want in the world. And we highly recommend and encourage you, if this is what you want to do, to go out and do it yourselves. Because if we can do it, you can do it. And for approval of the Midnight Society, I call this tale Watch Till the End. Enjoy. And there you have it, the world premiere of Watch Till the End, sneak peek. Gang, that's going to be on YouTube tomorrow, youtube.com/@wearechannel29. So happy that you could be here to check that out with us. We hope you liked it. We put a lot of work and a lot of time into that piece. And
Blood, sweat, and tears.
literally, yeah. And we can't wait to tell you more about it next week. It's looking like Tuesday night, 9 p.m. for Behind the Screams, where we'll have the whole cast and crew, everyone involved in making the movie, there to chat about it. We're going to do live commentary, like a riff track over it, to tell you a little bit about it as we made it. You'll hear stories about all kinds of weird shit that happened while we were doing it. Not like haunted shit, but like, other things. But thank you so much for sticking with us through all the years. I'm feeling excited about it. I might play it again. I don't know. I might do it one more time, because just to get us out of here. I'm a big fan. Love
Yeah.
the special effects. Oh, another shout out to Sean Becker, who is our creative consultant on this. Sean has an infinite amount of experience in the world of content creation and writing and directing and putting out awesome content on the internet. So thank you, Sean, for helping us out in that way and lending your expertise to us. Who?
May I?
Oh, you absolutely can, Denise. If I think both of you should talk. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna shut up now and drink my beer.
Well, like you said earlier, I don't want to get into too much right now because that's what the whole show next week is about. But thank you for being here, and yeah, like with the support that we've had over these few years, people showing up, whether we've been gone for 2 weeks or a couple months or 2 years. Like, thank you for being here with us. Like, that support is instrumental in doing things like this. So we love you. We thank you for your friendship. If you haven't already, if you could go subscribe to the YouTube channel, that's huge. That's helpful. Share, like, comment, watch it on YouTube as well. It's all about the algorithm thing. But, just thank you for being here. Beyond that, thank you for being here in this moment and previously.
Glenn, you have anything to add?
Nope.
You directed this thing. You don't have anything to say to the people at home?
No, I mean, I can't say anything better than what you two just said. Beyond, obviously, the huge thank you for sticking around with us and supporting us and watching it again and again on loop with all of the chat bots you could put in there, or whatever it will to bump the numbers. Thank you for that. I thank you. I can't say that I rocked it myself because I certainly did not. It really was a collaborative effort. It was really fun to make. Hopefully the next one doesn't take us 2 years to get done. Yeah. Definitely come around when we do the next stream with everybody that worked on it. It should be fun to hear insights and to hear things that I've forgotten about and maybe blocked out.
That was a long day. It was a very, very
It
fucking
was.
long day. We shot that whole thing in one day, and then we did like a half a day of pickups because we realized we missed some stuff. But we'll get into that on Blood and Popcorn Behind the Screams Tuesday. It's at 9 p.m. Pacific. Gang, thank you so much for being with us for the rebirth of Blood and Popcorn. We're going to be here for a few more weeks, and then we're going to take a short break while we transition to the East Coast again. And then we'll be back doing this regularly on a weekly basis because this is it. Man, this is super fun for us, and we love hanging out with you guys, and we love that you're here hanging out with us as well. So on behalf of Denise and Glenn and the entire crew of Watch to the End, we're going to play it out one more time in case you want to check it out. But please, like Denise said, please, please, please go to the YouTube tomorrow. Spray paint this thing all over the internet. Shotgun blast it. Do what you got to do to spray that blood pattern as wide as you can get it, because this is what we're trying to do with our lives right now. And your support means the world to us. So thank you again. We will see you next week for more Blood and Popcorn. We will see you next week for more Behind the Screams. We will see you next week. Thank you all for being here. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And until we meet again, keep that scream alive. Good night. Have a great weekend, everybody.